Peace, love, happiness, health, and purpose. This is a mantra I tell my children and what I try to live by. I am honored tonight to bring to you four missions I thoroughly believe in. These are people that saw a need in their community and decided to dedicate their lives in helping others. Altruism is contagious. It makes you happy. It can help if you have chronic pain. It promotes positive behaviors in teens, reduces stress, and it promotes mental health. So, how can you make a difference? How can you help others? If not financially, reach out to one of these missions tonight. See how you can volunteer, how you can create a fundraiser for them. Get your children involved, get your neighbors involved, your school, your community. Help others. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is an honor to give you the joy of giving.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Gannon, and I am currently the Executive Director of Mary's Place by the Sea. I'm also a founder. I've been invited to this session tonight to share with you my story of joy and how I unexpectedly stumbled upon it 11 years ago. In January of 2009, I was home with the flu. I had 3 small children poking me as I tried to get some rest. Are you better? Now. I had this overwhelming feeling of not being able to escape, no permission to be sick. And then a thought came to me. What does a woman do when she is faced with a long-term illness like cancer? Is anyone giving her permission to be sick? But more importantly, is she giving herself permission to take a break from her responsibilities to care for herself? The concept of Mary's Place by the Sea was born. Mary's Place by the Sea is a place where women visit during and after cancer treatment. It is that place where women can escape to hit their pause button and just be. A place where they can clear their head, receive holistic services that support them, mind, body, and soul, and meet other women on a similar path. Now, you may find it difficult to accept that a home surrounded by women who are at a low point in their lives could actually attach itself to the word joy. But I am here to tell you, Mary's Place by the Sea is full of joy. I share the concept behind our mission with you because I want you to understand that the intention of those who join our community to give their time and energy to help women with cancer is not self-seeking. However, we have all experienced abundant joy from being a part of Mary's Place. The message I share with you tonight is, in giving, you will find joy. Although this year will close out like no other in our lifetime, we find ourselves here. We have endured many trials this year as individuals and as a community, and it is that time of the year of reflection and perhaps a list of goals and resolutions you would like to make as we shift into 2021. Consider giving of your time, giving of your talents, giving to yourself unapologetically, and finally, giving monetarily to support the missions serving our community. I'll begin with giving of your time. Mary's Place has gathered over 150 volunteers who donate their time to humbly move about the home, performing tasks that help make our guests feel as if they are queen for the day. Our volunteers are assisting our chef in the kitchen and proudly serving a gourmet meal at lunchtime, or making beds and doing piles of laundry, or helping us in the office with mailings or filing. But the most beautiful time spent volunteering is when they are sitting comfortably in our living room with our guests over a cup of tea, phone tucked away, their own to-do list moved to the back of their minds, fully engaged. Their breathing is slowed and matching that of the woman sitting in front of them. They share stories and just listen. And for that brief time, they help our guests drift away from their daily routine of cancer treatment. Connections are made. Although there may be tears at times and the conversations can be heavy, at the end of their shifts, our volunteers leave feeling like they made a difference in someone's life that day. In giving of their time, they find joy. Another group of amazing individuals at Mary's Place are those who give of their talents, our practitioners. Our mission provides a list of holistic services that are meant to support our guests' mind, body, and soul. When we started 11 years ago, we began building the program by asking women diagnosed with cancer what they needed, what was not available to them to support them along their way, and what would help them through the rigors of treatment. Oncology massage, Reiki, reflexology, meditation, guided imagery, nutritional coaching, counseling, expressive writing, and yoga became the standard offerings here. Our practitioners lovingly give of themselves to our guests and help them quiet the mind, tune into their heartbeat, and release that which does not serve them. They are incredible. And when we were forced to close our doors and everything came to an abrupt halt, we had to pivot our program to continue to support those who invited us in to be a part of their treatment. We asked our practitioners to step out of their comfort zones and shift their practice to virtual when possible. We now offer at least 45 virtual sessions per month, multiple times a day, and bring over 400 women together from across the country. Our practitioners are keeping our community thriving and growing. We have slowly reopened our doors to host women daily, and it's a challenging protocol to follow to keep everyone safe during this pandemic, but our practitioners continue to do whatever is needed to support our guests. They are so happy to continue their practice, and we couldn't be more grateful. Now, I'd like to take a step back for a moment and talk about self-care, giving to yourself. A very important lesson that I have learned and want to share with you is how important it is to take care for your own mind, body, and soul without feeling guilty. The never-ending treadmill of work, family, and home responsibilities takes a toll on us. And the longer we go without taking our own pause brings us further away from who we are created to be. It's like the oxygen mask on the airplane. You know the analogy. You must secure your mask before you help someone else. I'm always amazed to hear our guests on the phone who say that they feel guilty about scheduling a visit and that they don't want to take a spot from someone else who needs it more. These are women with cancer. I can't think of someone who deserves a respite more, and even they feel guilty about it. We are wired to put the needs and desires of others before ourselves, that we can end up giving and giving to the point of collapsing. When our guests finally do visit our home, they are overwhelmed to tears. Many of them by the sheer fact that they didn't realize how desperately they needed a moment to breathe. I encourage you to be gentle with yourself. Carve out some time for self-care, and I know you will find joy. Finally, I'd like to mention what it means to be a local nonprofit when you give a donation. Our missions would not exist without you. Our community is incredibly generous, and particularly at Mary's Place by the Sea. We made a commitment 11 years ago to invite women into our mission at no cost to them. Because of you, we have been able to keep that commitment. Now, we have weathered many financial storms, including our recent pandemic, but we will continue to work tirelessly to ensure that our guests are not impacted. When a woman reaches out to us, it is oftentimes at a point of desperation. We call it quiet desperation. We share our program highlights with them and invite them to make a reservation. There's usually a sigh, and she will comment, "This all sounds so perfect and exactly what I need, but how much does it cost?" It gives us so much joy to be able to say, "It will cost you nothing. We are supported by our donors. You are making that possible. You are giving directly to our community." As you can imagine, our team worries constantly about our future, and when we receive your donations in the mail or online, you motivate and inspire us to continue to work hard for those who need us. So thank you. As I wrap up our time together, I hope the story of Mary's Place encourages you to give. Give some of your time, give your talents, give to yourself unapologetically, and continue to support local nonprofits, because in giving, you will find joy. I wish you all a wonderful holiday season and a year ahead full of health, peace, love, and joy. Thank you.
Peace and love, beautiful souls. My name is Michael Mills, co-creator of KIDS, Conscious Youth Development and Service.
Wholeness and love, everybody. My name is Rodney Solomon, the other co-creator of KIDS. And it's with gratitude and appreciation that we take the time to share this message with you all. And before we get started, just want to do a quick check-in, just to see wherever you are listening to this message, how are you feeling right now in this moment, in this time? We're all going to align ourselves on the same harmonic space.
So let's sit up nice and tall. And we're going to use this breath, the beautiful breath that's always with us at all times, to really connect to the essence of where we are right now. So sit up nice and tall, your head, neck, and spine in one straight line. Let's take a nice deep breath in, inhaling down to the belly. Open the mouth and sigh it all out. And just feel the wave of relaxation leave and enter your body. And this is the essence of our mission, to transform youth, schools, and communities through holistic practices. And these holistic practices are tools and techniques that are already within ourselves. So wherever you go, wherever you are, no matter what society is doing, you have access to these tools to bring yourself into that state of balance. And that was the observation in 2014. When me and Raj saw the suffering in our community, we saw the pain, the trauma being reinforced in our community. And no one was looking at the solutions, because the solutions that everyone was gearing towards, running towards, were only temporary. It was a temporary fix to something inside that was broken. Because no matter whatever's happening outside, it's the inside that needs to be whole, to be healed, and to be at peace. And that was the observation. Because our own journeys, we start looking within ourselves for lasting solutions. And me and Ryan are both working with youth, and we're giving them tools. But if I keep giving you tools and I'm not guiding you to the tools and the true change within yourself, then I'm only giving you myself, which you're gonna need tomorrow. You're gonna need the next day. And you're looking again externally for that solution. But what we were doing within our own personal journeys is just finding the power of our breath, finding the power of yoga and movement in our bodies. No matter what is happening outside of myself, I can only control the inner state within myself. And through those tools and techniques, we knew we had something. These simple tools were actually having more of an effect than the blueprint that we were told to facilitate and provide these youth, because what we're seeing was not anything external. When I start to look within myself and be the solution, that begins to transform everywhere I'm at. That light begins to spark, and I am automatically changing and shifting the energy within my community. And through that observation, we're like, man, we have something special, and this is something we need to bring to the community so they can feel the essence and we can remain healed. That was the observation. And from that observation, we had an obligation.
We knew that we had to begin to make this our mission, our life's work, and our purpose, to create safe spaces and containers where people can explore and dive deeper into self, to heal, to transform and awaken to the greatest version that exists within them. And to do that, we begin to study and we learn the impact of poverty on the development of a youth and how it affects their mental and emotional well-being. What we're doing is necessary. What we're doing is needed. Because imagine if you grew up and had the tools to self-regulate, what kind of world would you exist in? How would you show up for your community? How can you begin to embody your authentic being without the mask on? And we developed this multi-platform approach of really supporting every system that we believe that we existed in was not in a space of balance. There are ways that if you provide the support necessary to help the youth heal, our community heal, and allow our educators to be in a space to transform these youth. So we began in our community of Asbury Park in 2014 with our One Mic, One Soul. So we provided meditation Mondays for the community once a week since 2015, providing this service so that folks can explore what is going on within their own being, to begin to connect to the spaces that they have separated from, and learn to regulate the emotions when they see the shadows hidden beneath the surface. And from moving there, we supported the community in adults. We recognized we wanted to touch base with all the levels within a community dynamic. And we did our free Journey Summer program, 8-week mindfulness movement, SEL leadership space where youth can really begin to see how these tools support them in dealing with uncertainty, to help them become resilient in adverse situations. And as we evolved from our Journey Summer program, we began to go into our school-based community program. We started working with local elementary schools and got a firm understanding of what these kids really need. And we had a full-time school-based program in Asbury Park working in elementary, middle, and high school.
That imagination that we had from the observations to the obligation began to manifest in physical form. And fast forward from 2017 entering the school-based programs to 2020, we've been in over 45 school districts throughout the state, impacting over 5,500 youth, over 2,500 educators, and thousands of community members. And that impact was sustaining itself. They were feeling the essence, just like you felt at the beginning of this video with that breath. When you can embody that experience, that is the true change that we're looking to bring into communities, into schools, and to bring in throughout the world. You know, and that led into 2020, where the world shut down. We knew that we had to step up and bring more of our essence into the community. You know, so 2020 started our evolution of solutions. You know, so this is the solution. Always the blueprint is within yourself, within your heart. Can I use my heart's guidance and wisdom to manifest any change I want to see on the outside? And so 2020 March, we decided to hit the streets, you know, and we were bringing youth who were at home because schools were shut down. We were bringing them organic groceries from our partners, local partners in food grocery stores in the community. And we were bringing them not just food, but we were bringing them peace. We had to connect with these youth more than just the food. We were bringing them peace. We were bringing them the breath. We were bringing them different tools, techniques. We were dropping off books just to help them cope with the challenges that were going on. That was the beginning of the pandemic. And we understood that there was another pandemic. They called it the dual pandemic that was happening at the same time with the events of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, and seeing the equity and the racism in our society coming to surface. And everyone seeing this, the world was in an uproar. And we knew that we had to come back into the community and show them the same reason why we started the organization is the same solution that we need to look to right now.
And we recognize more than just food, clothing, and shelter, we need peace. We need to deal with our stress and anxiety so that we can show up with these challenges. So our Peace on the Porch was a 5-week pilot program for 5 families in the Asbury Park community that allowed them to begin to have self-regulation, to have real conversations, to express, to decompress, and provide them support that they need to make it through these uncertain times going through COVID-19. And as we got from our Peace on the Porch, we saw all the racial divide coming on. So we wanted to create our own little bit of a soul test. We had our Peace in the Park, a rally for the soul, where we brought a live equity workshop speaking about the difficult questions in a safe container, talking about racism, talking about our privilege, talking about all the things that are creating this division, but trying to find a space to bring us all together in wholeness, finding that inner wisdom within our heart to bring us real practical solutions. And as we move through those spaces, those are going to continue to evolve. Our Peace on the Porch, we're looking to build our mobile stress response unit through grant applications. Our Peace in the Park, we're developing an equity and development training workshop for businesses and community members and educators to continue to dive deeper into that frame of work, because we recognize that our support, our programs are needed more than ever. And as we continue to transform on this virtual plane, we recognize we can reach a much larger scope and audience than we have before. And we're developing very unique and transformative programs for our elementary youth. Our journey continues. And also our high school youth, our conscious leadership program. And these are mindfulness, SEL, equity, character development programs brought together in a space where these youth can dive deeper within themselves, even beyond the walls of the screen, to begin to develop the skill sets that are necessary for them to evolve into the greatest version of themselves.
Here's why we need your support. With the school shutdowns, the precautions, and the regulations that schools have to take, there's not a lot of funds to bring outside services into school. So we are raising $50,000 to bring our solution, our blueprint, mindfulness, social emotional learning, awareness, self-management, self-awareness into 15 schools throughout Monmouth County. Now here's the ripple effect of those school programs. When youth are exposed to tools that help them learn and discover greatness within themselves, that greatness doesn't just stay within that school environment or that community, that ripples out into the world. So we look forward to being partners and collaborators with you in the evolution of solutions. We ask for your full support, energetically and financially, to be a part of the change in this world. From my heart to your heart, I share my gratitude for all of your support that you have provided conscious youth development and service.
So the Wooden Walls Project is an initiative that started it's probably started in my brain in 2009, but to actually see light of day was 2015. This one came from the idea in Miami, Florida, where a section of Miami that was absolutely devastated and run down and was brought back to life by a real estate developer who saw not only like the benefits to developing a community through art, but like really engaging in making art the center of the development story by hiring artists to do it, by giving them platform to do it, by giving them walls for a voice to do it. In 2012, we had Hurricane Sandy, which was devastating, but all the buildings were spared. And so there were these wooden walls that were put up as sort of a precautionary, we don't know what happened to the buildings, we don't know how they've aged because of this hurricane. And so I saw these wooden walls as like an awesome opportunity to give artists a voice in this like little, 13 by 15-foot platform. So it's a public art project along the Asbury Park Boardwalk. I consider the boardwalk its own city, so it has its own challenges. And therefore I have to, as a curator, look at it from the eyes of a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, an 81-year-old who lives at the senior center on the boardwalk. I wanted something that would inspire everyone, which can be a challenge. In 5 years, we've done 52 projects with people from all over the world. I think our furthest reaching artist is from a remote village in Japan. So I think with every year passing, what happens is you have this beautiful, and this is how community is born. You work with an artist and they say, oh, you should check out this artist. They are doing really cool stuff, or this artist is doing really cool stuff. And they would really, really, really love the vibe of Asbury Park. And so I hear a lot about, it's not about coming to New Jersey to do a mural. It's about coming to paint near the ocean. I would say that 9 times out of 10, artists from other countries or other states have this idea of what they think Asbury Park is. And they basically come here with a sketch, and it's always cute. We do a walk, they pick a wall, they pick a spot. They always change it because they're not ready for the magnificence of the Convention Hall or the Paramount Theater or the Carousel. It's so surreal that we have these huge buildings with these beautiful ornamentations still sort of intact. So I think watching how inspiration inspires creatives is kind of one of the coolest parts about the project. But then what happens by default is that it inspires you as the viewer. So this wasn't something I necessarily would thought you could actually see as a tangible thing. But it's amazing to see like a person who doesn't think that they're an art person, or like, I don't know, you observe them and you're like, oh, they're not gonna look at the art. They're just gonna keep walking by the art. And then they stop in their tracks, and then they look up and they stare. You try to think like, what are they thinking about? And I like to think that like that little moment changed their day, just like looking at the ocean changes your day. So for me, it's more intensified every year with the more visitors we get, just how important it is to give back in a community. And public art is, to me, one of the best ways you can do it because it's free. It changes your experience even for a second. It makes you transported. It gives you like this momentary sense of experience that you're like, I don't know, to see people, it puts a smile on their face. Like, it's that little thing that can grow into something bigger. And I think public art is a great example of that, because you're tricked into thinking that you're not engaging in the arts. And I'm talking about people that would like not go to a museum. So I felt like, again, if it's like my love letter, Asbury, this is like, I've been inspired by this place. It has been my muse, so I want it to be yours as well. And I think the fastest way for me to do that was on the Asbury Park Boardwalk, where 1 million people see it every single day. That's just from my point of view. And then there's the whole point of view of what it does for the viewer, and the whole point of view of what it does for the artist. And some of the artists that we have are very established. They do mural projects all over the world, and they always tell me how special this place is and what we have is so special, and hold on to what you have here and protect it. It's so special. And, I think that, but when you hear other people tell you that, what you think, it's a surreal thing. And it's been an amazing journey watching all these three things come together. The viewer, the creator, and the manifester. We all get something from it. Some of us get monetary things from it. Some of us get soulful things from it. Some of us get, during Hurricane Sandy, what are we in? COVID. I would get emails from people that are saying, thank God I can go look at the murals. And to me, that's like something that warms your heart, because like if I didn't have for instance, personally, if I didn't have the ocean, I thought I would lose my mind during this whole COVID experiment. And to think that the murals are that for someone, it fills my heart to no end. And so I think that art is one of those things about giving. It gives in so many different ways. It gives to you as the creator. It gives to you as the viewer, as we were discussing. It gives to you as the person who is just happenstance on the boardwalk, and they see this mural, and all of a sudden they're looking up the artist. It's one of those things where it's an easy way to get people engaged in the arts, is to allow them the experience of an unguided vision into someone's mind. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if we activate this space with Hot Tea's installation? So after 5 years of basically begging for this artist to come to Asbury Park because I couldn't find the budget he's accustomed to, I said, listen, come to Asbury Park. I'll pay for you to come here. If you don't find any inspiration, or if you're not totally wooed by this experience, then so be it. It's not for you. So he came here for 24 hours. We walked the entire boardwalk. I showed him everything that inspired me. And at the end of the day, he said, Jen, you were absolutely right. I can't imagine a more perfect space for one of my installations. I am so enamored by this building. I totally get it. There was no way you could have showed me this I had sent him pictures and all sorts of stuff. And he's like, there's no way I would have understood unless I was standing right here and I could hear the ocean. I could smell the ocean. I could see the cold steel and see the face created in bas relief on the one side. He said, this is an unbelievable thing you have here, and I'm going to come next week and I'm going to start. And it was comprised of 5,380 strings in 36 colors. It was supposed to represent all the colors that you would see in a day. So when you entered the casino, it would be like sunrise to sunset through the colors. And I have to tell you, it taught me so much about our community, just having this installation here, because it was the first thing that I've done, or that I've helped facilitate, that did exactly what I wanted to do, which was to excite a 7-year-old to an 80-year-old and every walk of life in between. So again, art gives back in a way that person is now, the creator of that project is now changed by that experience. He's changed by our community. He's changed by the fact that he gave a gift to Asbury Park. And I just have to believe, and I'm lucky enough that we live in a bubble here, that I know a lot of people, and they get to share their critiques of how seeing the experience of seeing an installation that they can't even fathom, because if you're not an art person and you don't see sculpture, to see something that's 120 feet wide by 100 long by 60 feet wide, it would be akin to seeing a ruin or an old church, or there's something reverent in it that you're not expecting, because you're like, oh, it's public art. you know. And so I think that that has inspired me to be like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I need to do bigger things. I need to affect more people. I need to give more of this experience back to artists and viewers and, you know, people that stumble upon it, because I feel like in the world right now, we're losing curiosity and we're losing that experience of being surprised. So for people, we didn't necessarily advertise the project because I just wanted people to find it. I wanted people to come here and be like, oh my God, I have to tell you, I went to Asbury Park to have lunch and we walked to see the beach, and there was this giant moving, breathing piece of art. Like, I can't even explain it, but it's breathtaking. That to me is the best gift. It keeps giving, because then that person tells someone else, and then that person's like, oh, I want to come to Asbury Park. And we saw that happen. Word of mouth can still happen. Inspiration by word of mouth can still happen. However, I think that is the way that art should happen. It should happen in the now. It should happen for no reason except for an artist to be able to have a voice to show their vision, and then that vision changes someone else's day, or changes the vibration of the boardwalk, or changes the energy of this building that people think is scary because it's boarded up, but really it's just a work in progress. It's in the now that you realize that, yeah, paintings go, you know, every creator has a work in progress, you know. So when an oil painter does a painting, a realistic painting, there's an underpainting that if you look at, you'd be like, ugh. So I like to think that these murals help people see that this whole town is a work in progress. The boardwalk is a work in progress. It's not something that happens overnight. And I think in the interim, it will be a very sad day when this is developed, period, because there won't be these moments of opportunities to stumble across something that you don't know about. And I think that would be a sad day for me, because it's something that it ends the experience and the inspiration and the gift.
So I'd like to talk to you today about a story of inspiration, transformation, service, healing, and joy. So the story begins when I was diagnosed with cancer in 2015. Although I had loads of support from different people, including my workplace and friends and even strangers, people kept coming up to me and telling me I was courageous and it was going to be okay. And I didn't quite understand what they meant by that. I kept saying, how am I courageous? Like, what choice do I have? I did not pick this to have cancer. Going back to work was a real difficult moment, because I kind of had a new identity with the cancer. I kind of had, I wasn't sure in who I was anymore. I was more fearful. My body was different. And that was right around the time when a mutual friend that I had made asked me to meet a woman named Courtney Deacon LaLotra. So my very persistent friend told me that I needed to hear this girl's story. And the story that she told me was this. There was this young woman from New Jersey, Brick, New Jersey, actually, who had gone to Fashion Institute of Technology. And at her graduation, she went with some professors at FIT to India. And when she went to India to study fabrications, she was so taken by the poverty and the pain of the children there, the hunger, and so many children she saw that were abandoned, disabled, rejected, that she wound up staying in India. She moved into the slums, and she began to work for an existing orphanage. And while she was in the orphanage, she became very disappointed in the way that the children were cared for. Their needs were met, they were fed, but they weren't being loved. And then there was a particular child, his name was Surrender, and he had a lot of disabilities. So they had taken this one little boy and they put him in a state facility, and in that facility, although she visited him regularly. One day when she went, he died. And that was how One Life to Love was born. Courtney decided that she was going to start an orphanage for disabled children who no one else would take in India. And she had no money, and she had no way of doing this. But she said, if I can only take one child, I'll take one child. And it just began from there. I wound up meeting with her through my friend's urgency and offered to buy me lunch. And I said, okay, but I have an hour because I'm really busy and I'm trying to get my footing back together in my job and my life myself. And so 3 hours later, as I'm still sitting there talking to Courtney, I was just amazed by her. I saw light in her. I saw devotion and mostly, again, the courage that she had to see suffering and do something about it. So I leave this meeting with Courtney and my friend, and I think, you know, sometimes you go to a meeting like that and you're really inspired and you're really like, wow, this is amazing. And as time goes on, it fades a bit. Well, this didn't fade for me. There was something about her that I just felt like I want to help, but how can I help? What can I do? How can I help her? She's in India. It's such a brave, big step. How can I help? So I kept thinking about ways to help. And one of the things that kept coming to me was I really wanted my students to feel the bravery of Courtney, to be able to think beyond themselves, to be able to go higher than themselves. I really wanted them to experience that. I came back to my university, Monmouth University, and I called my global education department, and I made a phone call, and it went something like, I can't take students to India, right? I have a bunch of students that I would like to take to India and teach them like lessons of life. That's not possible, right? And as usual, Monmouth folks said, if you think it's going to be good for the students, then you can do it. Then, as usual, the counseling students rose to the occasion, and I had so many students that wanted to go. And so I began to turn people away. I had so many students that wanted to go. And on a personal level for me, I began to find my feet again, my sea legs, as recovering from cancer and trying to figure out who I was. This really helped me find inspiration to do the next thing. They also learned that there's a whole lot of suffering out there, and anyone can answer the call. Anyone can answer the call. They see the suffering, they can answer the call of suffering. And as therapists, as counselors, that's what we do. We help people who are suffering. And they come to us, and we help them in that. But for us to go and seek people who are suffering is different. And I think that they learned that. There's many ways of knowing, and we know one, maybe we know two, but they're infinite. Immersing the students in another culture where they didn't know anything. They didn't even know where they were going. They didn't know the children. They didn't know how to speak to children who don't speak their language. The immersion of that allowed them to not know, and they had to find a new way to know. The main thing that I wanted them to know, and I stress in the classroom, is that your truth is not the truth. And that was a very important lesson for them to learn. There are many truths. When you see someone suffering over in India, it's a different level of suffering than we have. Another thing that is very important, and was very important for me to have the students learn, was that we were the ones who should feel the gratitude toward Courtney's children. We were getting so much more out of experiencing their love and their lives than they were getting from us. And I think anytime we do service for others, I think we like to think that we're good people and that we're doing service, but the truth is, and if we really examine this, why we're doing it is much more important to us than it is to the person we're doing it with. And the point of it is that there's a lot of joy in this for all of us. I, through this experience, found myself back from cancer. My students found joy in the service, and they found, I think, a better way of being. What can you do to find joy in service as well? The first thing is to be inspired by people who show meaning in their life, to have parts of being human that we often just kind of push past. Really look at the suffering of other people. Look at what they're, when you're walking by someone homeless, look at them. And ask yourself, why can't I help? Why can't I help? The problems always seem too big, and they seem like, well, if I give someone money, that's not going to help. Probably not, maybe so, I don't know. But why can't you help? Why can't you get involved? What are we so busy doing that we can't get involved? Pick a passion that you care about, or 2 or 3 passions, and immerse yourself. Yes, money, but not just money. That's not the part that brings you joy. Money helps people, but you don't get the joy from bringing money. Get yourself involved, put yourself in it. Be part of it, help. Do what you can do. Use your own creative talents. Live a life that's bigger than you. And don't judge yourself. Don't judge others. Am I doing enough? Am I not? I can't get involved. I'm not good enough. I don't have the right degree. I don't have the right education. I don't have enough money. Courtney had no money, and she just did it. And always remember, too, that your truth is not the truth. We don't have to judge people to feel safe. We can just allow them to exist. I use a mantra, I think everyone's doing the best they can. And so I want you to consider the story and look at what Courtney has done. Look at what my students have done. And I would like you to consider finding joy in service, letting go of your transactional lives, and finding joy in the giving and service. Namaste.
Hi, thank you all so much for tuning in. We have so many people watching from all over, and I think it is a testament to what these people are doing and how they are taking charge and helping others. I want to quickly get over to Courtney. She's in India. She's been up all night long. She hasn't slept at all. This woman completely inspired me from the moment I met her. She went over there on a trip for fashion. Is that correct, Courtney? For textiles? Courtney?
Yes, I took a research trip in India.
So what are you doing right now during this pandemic? How has it changed your mission and what you're doing over there for your community?
Yeah, so as Joanne, Dr. Jodri had shared, One Life to Love, we were founded, because of Surender, who was a special needs boy that, was not cared for as he deserved to be cared for. And so we established a home for children with special needs. So we run that orphanage. We have 10 boys with special needs who are basically adopted by us. But our mission was always like, let's not just do just that. Let's do whatever we can. Let's be a beacon of hope wherever we are. So we've always reached out to our community. We actually established a daycare for migrant children who are children that are homeless on the streets of Delhi. So when rumors first started to spread about COVID and a potential lockdown, personally, I was battling these kind of like apocalyptic thoughts and like moments of deep fear. But at the same time, we, along with all schools, businesses, and basically everything in India was ordered by the government to shut down until further notice. So my personal fears were then replaced by, oh my God, what about our children who live on the streets? Their parents live hand to mouth. They depend on those jobs to feed their children. What are they going to do? Yeah. So we began feeding our daycare children. We would go to their huts on the roadsides or the construction sites where they live. We would give them rations and food. And then word began to spread. And one day we had hundreds and hundreds of people just lined up outside our gate asking for food. And, we ended up being able to help over 2,000 families through the entire crisis, the lockdown, months and months. And thankfully now they're starting to get back to work and all. So they're not in need of our help at this moment. But the moral of the story is that, in my experience, I find that when you're focused on giving to others, you're less likely to be consumed by your own concerns, fears, challenges. And, giving provides us this opportunity to look beyond our own suffering and see a bigger picture. And I would say that most likely when you see that bigger picture, when you put yourself in another person's world, then you realize that your problems and your challenges are not as significant as others.
Well, I just want to say to you, like, your story always inspired me, and I think it's phenomenal what you're doing. I definitely ask everyone watching to please, go check out their website, and we'll send you an update with all the information that you can learn how to help out and how to donate. But I just want to say to you personally, like, please take a moment for yourself too. Like, you're feeding thousands of people and helping all these children. Like, I really hope that you just like stay in bed one day and like sip on tea.
Maybe after this, I've been up all night, so.
Maybe take today. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I also wanted to ask Michael and Rodney, I know that you guys do so much in the community, but can you tell me who has really grabbed your attention? Like, who have benefited from your mission that it just like their story just kind of like clings to you? Is Michael and Rodney there?
Oh yeah, we're right here. I would definitely say that the impact that we have had on the students in the Asbury Park school system, and just the phenomenal stories of seeing kids that when we first began our program in 2017 and seeing their awareness and awakening 3, 4, 5 years later, where we were dropping seeds of information and knowledge that at the moment you felt like it was not even taking any kind of root, but then seeing how when we see kids 3 years later, how they would be able to really understand and comprehend the importance of taking time for self, as you mentioned earlier, the importance to really take a moment to self-regulate and use your breath and see that awakening. That's when me and Mike started to realize, okay, what we're doing is more than impactful. It is lasting beyond our connection.
I'll quickly add to that. It's just like Rod said.
I hope you don't.
Okay, I was going to say that 3 years is really just.
Go ahead,
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, so the 3 years is just really a beautiful baseline of seeing elementary to middle school and middle school to high school and high school even after, where we've even hired a couple of youth that have been through our programs. And it's been beautiful to see that light and just see parents saying, my child came home, they taught me how to breathe. They taught their little siblings how to breathe, and seeing that ecosystem begin to grow in peace.
I hope you don't mind me saying, but you had told me a story once. We did a fundraiser where we gathered yoga mats, and you told me a story about a little girl that it's touched me, that she took her mat into her closet so that when her parents were fighting or screaming, she had a safe place where she could go and breathe and meditate. And that just like broke my heart, but also filled me with so much joy that a mat could make such a difference.
Oh yeah, and it's just the tool and the reflection of the deeper layer of them going within themselves. And that's the beauty of it, because you don't have to just stay around the fire. You can learn to bring peace to yourself amongst the fire, because I can't change your external situations and conditions, but I can help you deal and manage and build more resilience within you so you can handle those challenges.
Well, anyone watching, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, obviously, they're not doing a lot of the things that they used to do. But if you can ever go and do one of Michael's crystal bowl classes, it's so relaxing. I mean, I try not to pass out, but I'm just like, And then his words, like, I just want to pass out and like go to sleep to him every night. I just love hearing you guys. I have a question for Michelle here from Mary's Place by the Sea. Michelle.
Hi.
Hi, I know that you guys have helped over 12,000 women, but I'm curious, 12,000 women with cancer, I mean, surely they're not all from New Jersey. Where do all your guests come from?
It's amazing, Melanie, and thank you for having me on this. Just to be in everyone's company is giving me so much joy. Women are coming from all over the country prior to COVID, obviously. And now we're connecting them through the different virtual services. They are still connecting. But as far as Alaska, Hawaii, we've had women from California. We had sisters drive here from Oklahoma, actually drove to Mary's Place in Ocean Grove, New Jersey, from Oklahoma to be here for 2 nights. And when they first introduced themselves and said that they had driven that far to be here, I excused myself and I was very overwhelmed emotionally because I just couldn't believe that people had heard about us that far away, and they came. It was amazing.
Are you thinking about opening any other locations in the future? Or does that?
Absolutely. You know, once we pass through this little blip on the screen that we're having right now, hopefully, it's something that we want to do because what it does is it engages an entire community, and we can't exist without the community. And I think that what it does is it brings a whole community together because we lean on one another to bring women in. And the equalizer is cancer. So no matter where you're coming from demographically or all the things that are separating us at times right now, this is what brings you together. So it's definitely something that we want to do in the future. And when we were bursting at the seams prior to COVID and had this momentum, people would say to us, you know, you need a bigger home. And we would always say, not a bigger home, just more of them, because we want to keep it intimate and be able to connect women really one-on-one. And that's all part of the mission that we're doing here.
Well, I hope you don't mind me telling this story, but I remember one time when I was visiting you, their offices are in the basement, and I was walking by the dining room, and I just want everyone to understand that Mary's Place is a place of joy. Like, everyone is always happy when I've been there. But I was walking by the dining room, and a bunch of women were sitting there, and this lady was like, I told my husband I don't have to empty the dishwasher. I have brain cancer. And everyone started laughing. And I was like, well, that's one way to look at it. But it's just such a beautiful and joyful place that I hope everyone that's fighting this gets to experience you.
It's amazing. What we always get more, we receive more than we're giving here. Just as the other panelists have said, it's life-changing for every person who's a part of it. And I feel so blessed to be on this path.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
So this is for Juicy Jen, the woman who I love. I love Jen. I met her right when I moved here 13 years ago, and I met her at the Asbury Lanes that she was running, and it just felt like a home to me. And there was always art everywhere, and I just felt like the creative spirit around me. I've always felt like, you know, maybe I couldn't afford art, and you've really taught me that art is for everyone. You know, by putting it up all over Asbury, obviously we could see it that way, but like, how else can people get involved in art and Wooden Walls Project and kind of like have it more for themselves as well?
Well, it's interesting. And I just want to say that everybody's story was, it's so lovely to be with everybody has such inspiring stories. I'm like tearing up. And you know, when I start to talk about art, it seems to me that it's something that it's personal for everybody. So like, for instance, when you were saying like, you weren't really, you know, when you went to Asbury Lanes, you had this experience and so on and so forth. I want everybody to have an experience. There is this sort of stigma that art is only for like the 1% or for people that are very wealthy. And I think that that was my biggest observation with owning a gallery. It's like, I would see people come into Asbury Lanes or into Parlor and they would have these moments. And, you know, it's like, I felt bad looking at their moments, but then I was like, oh, wait a minute, you know, there is something to public art. And, you know, for people that don't get to travel places, this is the only thing some people have. And I wanted to be able to share the experience of standing in front of something and feeling smaller than it and knowing there's something bigger out there and understanding that like, it isn't it isn't necessarily about collecting. I mean, that's a big part of the art world, of course, because you want to give your money to, like when you buy a piece of art, you're giving money to someone's dreams. Like they've taken a leap of faith. And when you spend money on art, you're giving money to that lifestyle. And that in itself is such a precious thing that I don't think a lot of people understand. And I get to see both sides of it. I get to see artists and the struggle and knowing how much it takes just to get a painting done. And so for me, it's a really emotional thing when these murals are born, because it represents someone sharing their passions with us sort of selflessly, because no amount of money makes it worth art school. And the challenge of being like, okay, I'm going to be an artist, I'm going to do this. It's a giant leap of faith. And I think because of that, I think that's why you have these moments, and it's personal for everybody. So, it's precious for me to watch how it affects everybody in different ways. And it really lightens up people's days, which is really great in a time like now.
Well, for everyone watching, please visit her at the Parlor Gallery, and you can see my favorite Jill. I love her work. Pork Chop always has some fun stuff, and hopefully like a little Howard Shore, I got to put him in there too. So any questions? Brian, do you have any questions for any of our amazing speakers? This is the godfather of Asbury Park TEDx. This is Brian. What, Brian's on mute? There he is.
I think the Godfather's just right, Melanie. Thank you so much. Did we give Joanne and Courtney a chance to have a question from you? I just want to make sure, because then we need to close up tonight. But I have so many questions for all of the panelists. But
Melanie, if we could hear a moment from Joanne about how she's connected Monmouth University to that project, I think that would be a well worth minute or so to hear her speak.
Thank you, Brian. As I said, I wound up taking students to India. We're on our third trip that we're planning. We go every year now. And so my students come back changed. They come back with a different level of consciousness, with a different level of maturity. And at the same time, I've forged this beautiful relationship with Courtney and the children. The children know we're coming each year. It's an ongoing relationship, and the inspiration that Courtney's given me as a person to do better, and feeding off each other. It's hard to describe. All of my students also, most of them have maintained relationships with Courtney as well. And she continues to inspire us here to do things that you're afraid to do it anyway. And, I'm a professor and the program director at Monmouth University in the professional counseling graduate program. And, we're training therapists to be therapists. And I can't think of a better way to have them explore other parts of themselves that don't know. And I'm just very grateful to her, and I'm very grateful to all of you. And I'm so impressed with all of you as well.
All right. So Melanie, I think you want me to make a few closing announcements. Is it okay?
Yes, just thank you, everyone. I really admire everyone here, and I truly believe in your missions, and I really appreciate you coming and sharing them. And I hope that this platform helps you spread that awareness. Thank you, Brian, for allowing them to do this as well.
Oh, of course. So, TEDx Asbury Park is dedicated to ideas we're sharing. And there's nothing better than to discover great ideas right here among us in Monmouth County. And Melanie and panelists, you've really done that tonight. So we thank you. I wanted to personalize some of the stories I heard tonight, just to bring it to a personal note. We will send you all an email with links to these great nonprofits. And so expect to hear from us and where you can learn more. You can learn more, you can volunteer, you can give. It's up to you. But you can also just spread the word. My mother died at age 42, leaving 4 kids behind of cancer in Monmouth County. And I would have loved to have had her at a place like Mary's by the Sea. And then as a kid in school, even though I was a good student, I really needed some mindfulness and some breathing, guys. And the idea that you're bringing that to 45 schools in Monmouth County is just amazing. So I really want to see people support your work. And it is a blueprint within us, right? The answers are there inside of us. And then Jen Hampton, I've been riding my bike to Asbury Park since I was 12 years old from Rumson. And I watched it go down, and now we've watched it come back up again. But the fact that it is an outdoor museum, I'd like to challenge any designers or technicians on the phone today. I think Wooden Walls needs a calendar and it needs a map. And there's got to be an app for that, because I'd love to go to Asbury Park and tell people, get this app and you can go to the outdoor museum that is Asbury Park. And then finally, Joanne, I was lucky enough to go to India when I was in my middle life. And I can say that for these college students going to India, and Courtney too, that it's transformative, that nothing can really adjust your worldview than going to India. And so I'm sorry that I had to wait till I was in my middle life to do that. And I think it's so great you're affording young people to do that. Everybody knows I'm very emotional as the producer of TEDxAsburyPark. I have a few announcements to make if I can get through them. So if you had fun tonight, there's even more fun and learning to be had on February 18th, right close to Valentine's Day, a day dedicated to love. Today is Global Giving Day. And on February 18th, we're going to bring our #1 TED speaker of all time, Gary Lewandowski, who's had 2 million views, to talk about the joy of relationships and how relationships are much more resilient than we realize. And then Marie Lewis is going to talk about the impact of special needs children in relationships and how they can be a blessing to relationships. And then finally, look, for all you creative people on the line, we're issuing you a challenge, not only to support these great leaders we heard tonight, but on April 1st, we're going to host a reading of 30 one-minute readings and performances. So think about what would be your TED talk, your TED reading, your TED performance of 1 minute, dedicated to the theme of treat others as you wish to be treated, or also known as the Golden Rule. And if you have an idea of what you'd like to read, perform, please go to our website, tell your friends to do this. We want 1,000 submissions, from which we'll publish many, but we'll create a beautiful video that this wonderful team can do on treat others as you wish to be treated on April 1st. And we'll gather another 400 people on February 18th and April 1st for those two events. They're on our homepage. And meanwhile, we'll be back at Two River Theater or in Asbury Park in 2022 with a live all-day event featuring 24 speakers and entertainers in an idea fest of ideas worth sharing. So we hope you'll sign up for that. And I wanted to thank the audience. And most of all, I wanted to thank these leaders here tonight for being with us. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.